Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty RoundTable Radio Talk Show.
October the 8th, 2025. Hard-hitting news the networks refuse to use, no doubt, continues now. I'm Sam Bushman. Lance Miliaccio, the Big Mig, with me, thebigmig.com. Check out his incredible radio show on Liberty News Radio on the weekends. Also, check out his incredible work TV shows, YouTube, Rumble, X. They've got several different shows. They talk about crypto. It's a variety show. They're the tip of the spear. They basically really want you to understand something. If liberty means anything at all, it means the right to tell people what they don't want to hear. So there you have it. Lance Miliaccio with me. Muslim Brotherhood, quote, "Don't say we didn't warn you." I feel like it's a Taylor Swift song. Don't say I didn't warn you. Lance?
Oh, no. You know, if we're going to be talking about Taylor Swift, I may have to leave. But look, the Muslim Brotherhood.
She's been going conservative now. She actually wants to get married. You got to give her some credit. Come on.
Yeah, I don't know. I have a problem with the
better than the cat lady plan
thing
Lance.
in general.
Come on.
Yeah, she's a cat lady in the making, in my opinion. Once she's not relevant anymore, she'll probably have a house with hundreds of cats. Listen, the Muslim Brotherhood, we talk about it on our show. For anybody that don't know who they are, that's a transnational Sunni Islamist organization. Of course, it was founded, I think, in roughly 1928. Look, this is an extremist organization. They can say whatever they want, but you're going to see some, strung together clips here in a second. One of them is out of the UK. If anybody doesn't know what's going on in the UK or in France or in Belgium or in Germany and their Islamist invasion and what they're doing and how they're trying to force Sharia law, that should be enough of a warning. My friend Tommy Robinson covers it. That with the rape gangs and everything else, that should scare us enough. But now here we are, and they're basically saying there's two ways to force through their extremist Islamic agenda. That's at the ballot box or with bullets. We're going to get it from the horse's mouth. Let's play the clip, and then we'll talk about it, Sam.
Number 5.
Through Congress. So before it was by the sword, now it's getting themselves into parliament and then making laws that act as the sword, the Islamophobia law in Canada, M103.
Yeah.
Muslim Brotherhood.
I find that there are only two things which are open to our movements. Ballot or bullet, nothing in between.
I used to say that democracy is haram. Now I say participation in democracy is our jihad. That's our jihad. We're going to fight not through the bullets, but the ballot.
Going to the ballot and voting is now an obligatory action, fard ayn. And it is a jihad that is now needs to be done because this is our modern jihad. You can elect a person who wants the Sharia.
Because in the United States, what we do know is that in the past election, just this last election, there have been over 800 Muslim candidates running for office.
We may end up with about 50 members of Congress in the next 6 years. That's really the essence of dismantling the system of injustice, is to replace it with the people who represent the Prophet ﷺ.
It's off the charts, Lance. They're blatantly saying ballots or bullets. Take your pick, world nations. We're coming to take over the West, and we're coming fast, and we're coming hard. That's really what they're saying, Lance.
You have absolutely nailed it. Islam is a national security threat. Sharia law does not fit with the morality of the United States or its people. And I'm tired of it. I don't want to see it. And we're finding that a tremendous number of these individuals came into the country illegally. We're now aware of it because, of course, there's been lots of press recently, but that's not enough. When somebody's talking about moving their agenda through ballot box or bullet, when is enough enough? What do they have to say? Do they have to come out and go to the ballot box with bullets? I mean, these are not the kind of people I want in the country. They have plenty of places to live. They have plenty of places to push their agenda. And I'm not a racist, but when you start threatening me and telling me that I'm going to be force-fed your religious rhetoric, yeah, I believe in freedom of religion, but I don't believe in anybody that's going to force their agenda. And one of the options is bullets. You want to live peacefully? So be it. If that's your agenda, then it's time for these people to be ejected from the country violently if necessary.
I don't even know how to respond because here's the issue. We've got members of Congress right now that are already basically backing this agenda. I mean, what's her name? Married her brother, and what the heck?
Ilhan Omar.
I mean, what's happening
It's immigration fraud. There's more low-hanging fruit for Pam Bondi. Pam, can we arrest Ilhan Omar for immigration fraud? See, that's my point. We keep hearing about these crimes. They talk about it. Everybody, the Republicans, oh, what about this? What about? And nothing happens. But again, if you committed immigration fraud, Sam, you would already be in jail.
Well, the truth is what can set us free. But the problem is we've got to have Pam Bondi and Kash Patel act. And what I hear from Dan Bongino, Kash Patel, and Pam Bondi is, oh, we're working on some serious stuff that we can't talk about, Lance.
Yeah,
I
it's
appreciate that, but
G65 classified. It's above your national security clearance, Sam. We can't tell
Hey,
you.
man, hold on a minute. You guys work for me. What do you mean it's above my security clearance?
Yeah. If they tell you, they'll have to kill you, Sam. That's what it is.
I see.
And I'm tired of that.
Who do I got to worry more than if they tell me?
I'm tired of the cloak and dagger. I don't want to hear about the cloak and dagger.
Or the bullets of the Islam or the bullets of the Brotherhood or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, at some point, folks, we've got to stop this. Why are we letting people serve in Congress that clearly have an Islam Brotherhood tie? We realize it's a security threat. They blatantly, publicly stated, hey, it's the ballot box or bullets. So we let a lady go in Congress. She married her brother. She's, Islam to the core. And now she's saying, hey, I'll take the ballot box. I'll participate in your democracy as my jihad. And we're going, hey, you can't, do much about this. As they promised, they'll take over more Western nations. When are we going to decide the threat's big enough, Lance?
I think the threat's big enough right now. But again, until you have people that are willing to do their job based on the oath they took, based on the obligation of the law, the supremacy clause is clear. The Constitution is clear. And the statutes are clear. Illegal immigration is a punishable charge. If you lie on the federal paperwork, you have committed a federal crime. I'm tired of this dialogue, Sam, where they go, you just did that against the United States Senator. These are just people. They allegedly got elected by a free and fair election system where the American people chose them. That does not make them superior. They're not demigods. It's time to drop the hammer with extreme prejudice. And if you guys can't do the job, listen, I used to be an old door kicker. I'll tell you what, bring me in there. I'll do it by the letter of the law, but I'll bring the charges and I'll bring them rapidly. I may not be qualified, but I'll tell you this, what I won't do is do a bunch of public interviews and make a bunch of excuses or just stomp my feet and clench my fists. It'll be action until I get fired.
Isn't that exactly what we thought that Dan Bongino would do? And
I would have bet a large sum of money on it, and I was wrong.
I pray you're still wrong, and I pray that it is coming, that their promises are not without merit, that their promises are real. I hope they're doing the real work that needs to be done, the heavy lifting behind the scenes. I don't trust it at this point because they've taken already way too long. We've wasted literally 10 months and not arrested really anybody that matters. But I'm hoping that it comes soon. I agree that it's an Islamic threat. But you know what? I believe Joe Biden is just as big of a threat as these guys are, Lance.
Oh, there's no doubt. I think he was using those classified documents in his garage to make deals left and right. I know his son was involved. The truth is coming out, but I'm not sure the accountability is. Here we are again, more crimes, Russian president's special envoy. Exact quote, Biden provoked the war in Ukraine to cover up his family's corruption. Now, of course, the entire world knew this, and we're talking about Kirill Dmitriev, and he is the special envoy to Alexander Putin. He is saying that it's clear Biden used the war in Ukraine to make sure that nobody would investigate all the economic and investment crimes that he participated in. Now, here's my question. Who's investigating this? And when are we going to see Joe Biden get perp walked? This goes beyond the scope of what he's allowed to do. Absolute immunity, presidential immunity does not cover this. This is a case of him committing crimes and then using his position in government to influence the outcome of those crimes. Now, the CIA knew about it. They stopped and were told not to disseminate the information that exposed this corruption
By
by
Joe,
the
right?
Biden clan.
Yeah.
What, Sam, where are we? Is Joe Biden a criminal or does he get presidential immunity? You tell me.
Well, he's got old age immunity. So since he doesn't even know where he's at, they're going to let him just walk into the sunset, from what I understand.
Yeah. I don't agree with that.
I agree with Lance. I don't agree with that. It's flat out unacceptable. Hang tight. We've got more where this came from. Joe Biden literally provoked the war in Ukraine to cover up his crime family's dealings. The problem is there doesn't seem to be any real prosecution. This Kirill Dmitriev, he's the chief of Russia's sovereign wealth fund, the Russian direct investment fund, etc. And he posted several tweets on his X account following the news on Monday that Joe Biden literally was involved in this corruption. And I guess he basically retweeted tweets that were from 5 years ago, right, Lance?
Yeah. I mean, listen, here's my question about this. Is Russian intelligence that much better than our own intelligence organizations? Is it possible that they are so skilled that they are able to identify the criminality of the Biden crime cartel better than our own agencies and our own DOJ?
It's a fair question. And then the other question is, what about broadcasters like you and I who basically pointed to this corruption as well? Are we better than our own agencies? Maybe Kash Patel should answer that.
I think it's a valid question because here we are with a president and his family using his position of power. Some of this happened as he was vice president. Some of it happened as he was a senator. I mean, he has got decades of influence peddling under his belt. He's an expert. This is a guy that I don't think made any legitimate money. All of it was sham and jam. And here we are. Here's a foreign intelligence organization that I'm sure would be happy to provide us all the details of the criminality that they investigated, but yet nothing. Biden's still walking around, sniffing people and eating ice cream. I don't know. I assume he's probably sponsored by an adult diaper company. Listen, when's this going to stop? See, this is my point.
And here's the next question, though. As far as I understand, they pressured to remove a Ukrainian official who had uncovered the criminal activity. They call it wrongdoing in this article, but the criminal activity here, then they, and didn't Joe Biden brag about that too, Lance?
Of course. And he used his power to do it. We're talking about the prosecutor, the Ukrainian prosecutor. But this was all about Burisma. It was all about the money laundering. And, he wasn't the only one. There are other political officials whose family members were involved in the organizations over there. We heard the stories about trafficking, of Hunter Biden trafficking. We heard the stories about drugs. But, Sam, this is the biggest problem I have right now in the current administration. It's obvious this happened. It's clear what Joe Biden did, but yet why is he still walking around like a free man? These are FARA violations we're talking about. And these people could easily be charged. They could start at one level and then they could do half a dozen superseding indictments if they want. I just don't understand what's going on. I expected by now that there would literally be hundreds of arrests already in all these situations. But here's a clear story. It's low-hanging fruit. Why is Joe Biden not being arrested?
I don't know the answers. It's very strange. But again, where's Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, Donald Trump, Pam Bondi? I mean, I can keep going, right? Ben Carson. What about all these people that I think we in the past have had some modicum of trust in and hope that they would take care of business? What happened to them all? I mean, I don't even really hear anybody in the Senate talking about this. They're too busy having Mike Johnson say, go home. Mike Johnson should be voting a single issue bill to vote to fund the paychecks of the air traffic controllers, not going home.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, it's a complete clown show from top to bottom, Lance. I hate to be so rude, but I don't see any other explanation of this. What is going on? Meanwhile, you want Donald to make faces at people? Is that what we're doing?
Well, we
and
need
then
some
Pam
more.
Bondi to have Jerry Springer on TV. I mean, that's all we're seeing.
Sam, we need some more memes. We're going to need more memes because I think if we can load up on the memes, we'll get some effective solutions.
Anyway, I don't. All right. Well,
let's load up on, and that's the point, right? You're right. Listen, it's all optics. Actions speak louder than words is the strongest statement I can make. You can do whatever you want with your interviews. You can do your little presentations in front of Congress. You can meme away, but show me some results. Show me the hammer of justice, right? The axe of justice is supposed to swing both ways. Right now, I don't see it swinging at all. I see everybody taking a break. They're all on vacation.
Oh my gosh, I don't really even know how to respond to all this, except for I guess we got to talk about the saint patron of animals. Maybe we got to talk about that because it's a little easier to deal with, right, Lance?
Yeah, we're talking about the patron saint. We're talking about the power of, public prayer. George didn't like this story. He feels like parading around the remains of Saint Francis of Assisi, of course, one of the most beloved saints in history. Of course, the poor, animals, that was his thing. Now they're going to be moving. The big news out of the Vatican is they're going to be taking his remains and they're going to be moving it from his tomb in the crypt, and they're going to place it at the foot of the papal altar in the lower church of the Basilica of St. Francis. So I think it's great. I love the fact that anytime we can have God get publicized in a way that I think is beneficial. I don't think this is bad, but George felt as though taking him out and moving him around was disrespectful to his remains, disrespectful to his legacy. I don't know. What do you think, Sam? I kind of like it. I love when stuff like this ends up in the media because I think the power of prayer is so important, and anything that can get people out, to get them participating. And this is what it is. They're going to have a tour. People are going to be, told the history, and they're going to be kind of hopefully excited about what this is about.
Your point's well taken, Lance, and I'm kind of in the middle of both of you. I don't think it's really disrespectful because I think the intentions are good. However, I'm not really fond of just digging people up and moving them around. But remember, when people, do these big pilgrimages, it still inspires humanity along the path of peace, fraternity, service to the poor, this kind of stuff, care for creation. I like that. And so I think for the most part, it's a good thing. What we need to make sure we do is really be careful, though. Saints are important. Leaders, role models, leading us to prayer and godliness, those are good things. But we got to make sure that we don't eclipse God in the process. And that's my only concern, Lance.
And I think that's a genuine concern. I don't think we want, we have to be careful we're not kind of creating this separate level of demigods. But I think, celebrating, St. Francis of Assisi's life and what he lived for, and kind of maybe getting people focused on some of the things that matter versus maybe watching Pam Bondi or maybe worrying about the next steak bite they're going to get from Arby's. Hopefully, this is what this does. I think it does. Like what you just said, though, George was concerned that we take the optics off of God and kind of focus on somebody that maybe might get venerated in a way that isn't positive for what the messaging should be.
All right. It seems to me that we just need to be very careful. It's kind of like Charlie Kirk, too. I realize he's a martyr for liberty and for God, family, and country. I respect that, but let's make it more about God than Charlie. Let's make it more about God than this patron saint. Let's make it more about God than Sam or you or anybody else that's just mere human for that matter. We got to make sure we don't put the cart before the horse. We got to make sure that we point to Christ and that we don't get kind of misdirected along the way. Other than that, I think it's great. Anybody that leads people to prayer, to God, to family, to country, to the things that matter most, to our governing values as a country, as a people, is good. But let's just be very, very cautious and careful that it doesn't turn into a money-raising situation. How much money is going to be made from this pilgrimage? Is it about the money? If we're not careful, then these things start to eclipse great intentions, Lance.
Are you saying that my highly decorated gold coffin order should be canceled? Are you saying
yes, I am,
have
sir.
That?
Uh-huh.
I don't know.
I think you got to just have a wooden box, buddy.
I'm struggling with that. I was going to go solid gold. That way they could put it on a big pedestal and everybody could venerate the Big Mig. Look, you're right.
You
Hopefully
could do
it's not
solid
about the money.
gold Big Mig coins.
You know what? That's an idea too. And I'm thinking we should have some kind of aromatherapy, like maybe fresh donuts in my crypt that people come there and they can smell.
Or you could have
fresh baked
animal tongue
cookies.
if it's the Patriot Saints animals. You could, you know.
I'm trying to pump it up. Maybe a little
Oh.
music, a little hip hop, maybe, or something else. All right.
I'm trying to really though help people understand though that you know what I again with you, I'm not like George. I want to applaud this. I just want to applaud it with caution. Applaud it with saying,
Makes
hey,
sense.
this expedition rooted in the gospel theme. Let's make sure it stays rooted there, please.
Yeah, I think that's great. But since we're talking about gold, all that glitters appears to be gold. Price of gold, man, just hit a milestone, Sam.
Whoa,
It
baby.
rises above 4 G's an ounce. Show me the money. Of course, jittery investors are flocking to the safe haven investment. I've been talking about gold and silver on the show. I only wish everybody listened to me. We really started hyping about 2 years ago, teamed up with a sponsor, but it wasn't only about the sponsor. George and I are gold and silver bugs, but yo, baby, 4,000 plus an ounce silver heading towards that Hunt Brother $50 an ounce price, man. Where
Ooh.
do you think we're going? Are we going to hit 4,500 before the end of the year gold? George predicted, he first said $4,000, then he said 3,800 because he got a little cautious, and now he's kicking himself because it's over 4. Where's the end of this rally? And this is crazy. This is the first time in history you see what's going on with the U.S. dollar and gold. It's kind of an interesting situation that hasn't happened before.
I'm going to say this to answer your question. It all depends on how much they manipulate the economy. Most Americans still aren't caught up to speed or educated on this, but if they manipulate the economy, then people won't run for the hills, so to speak, and go to gold as much. So if they drop the interest rates, if they do things to make you feel better, if they, pump up the stimulus in the economy, it's kind of like crack. The more they pump the crack into the economy, the less likely people will flee to gold because they'll be titillated by the deception. So that's the answer to the question. Where it'll go, I don't know. It depends on how much they tamper with the economy. We will keep an eye on the ball, though, and this is absolutely unprecedented. Gold's at an all-time high, right?
No doubt, but I'm questioning, where's the gold? Is there any gold in Fort Knox? I'll leave you on that.
Well, when's Donald going into that? Wasn't that one of his campaign promises?
We were supposed to have a live video streaming from there, and all of a sudden, nothing but crickets. I'm concerned, Sam. Does the U.S. have any gold?
All right, Lance Miliaccio, yours truly on YouTube, Rumble, LibertyRoundTable.com, LovingLiberty.net, just about everywhere, baby. You got to dig that. All that glitters is gold. I always do presentations called He Who Owns the Media Makes the Rules. It's kind of like he who owns the gold makes the rules. Really, the fact that gold's going up so much tells the tale. They want you to believe gold's kind of inconsequential in our lives. People realize the truth. When things get kind of sketchy, scary, or squirrely, then everybody flees to gold and silver. You're seeing it now. Lance asked right before the last segment ended this clear question. Hey, you know what, Sam, what do you think? What's going to happen? Is gold going to go up to 4,500 plus? I think the answer is it's going to go up. But again, the more they can manipulate the economy, the more they can literally inject that crack cocaine of, economic stimulus. They play so many games at the Fed, it's not even funny. And the first thing we need to do is call a halt to that con game. We need to audit Fort Knox. Trump promised he'd go in. I'm still waiting for the commission. Me and Lance could go in there to be fantastic. Would check it out, would evaluate it for you, would put together a good forensic report, the whole bit, But it's all talk, Lance. This is my point. It's all talk and no action, baby.
Well, look, all over the globe, there's lots of other governments that are accumulating gold. We don't even know if we have any in Fort Knox. The last time it was revalued, I think it was valued at $40-some an ounce. I offered to buy it all at $100 an ounce, but of course, I'm not sure I'm getting anything for the money. Where is it? Why won't they do the audit? Why won't they televise? And why aren't we adding any gold to our strategic reserve? Seems like a good investment. Goldman Sachs says 4,900 per ounce by the end of the year. So what's the situation here? Does the United States have any gold? And I agree with you. End the Fed, baby. It's time to put an end to that garbage.
Well, and here's my next question, though. Donald talked about auditing this thing, going in and finding out. He talked about getting Barack Obama's birth certificate to know the truth. He talked about getting the Jeffrey Epstein files. If we use the Epstein files as our kind of truth anchor, so to speak, ain't none of it going to happen, Lance.
Shh. Don't talk about Epstein, Sam. You're breaking the rules. Look,
Yeah,
I
I'm carrying out
agree
a
with
Democrat
you.
narrative, aren't I?
I
Yeah.
agree with you. Look, at the end of the day, talk is cheap. I'm the show me state guy. You know me, I'm a kid from Fordham Road in the Bronx. I'm rough around the edges. I don't want to hear any more chatter. If you can't show us the truth, and if you can't stop treating us like daddy and mommy government, that you kind of have to filter everything that comes to us. I'm still waiting for the truth about 9/11. I want to know what happened to Seth Rich and where's his laptop. I want the information from the Wiener laptop. I want the Russian collusion hoax people all arrested. This is where I'm at, buddy. I'm
I
done with
want
the
to know the
talk.
truth of what happened on J6. I want to know the truth that happened in Oklahoma City bombing. I want to know the truth that happened on 9/11. I want to know the truth
Bingo.
about Barack Obama's birth certificate. I mean, I'm just getting started, baby.
That's it. We're getting canceled. We're talking about stuff we're not supposed to talk about, but that's what we
Right.
do here on Liberty Roundtable Live. It's the way we do it. But let me give this is a public service message for P. Diddy.
Wait a
Okay.
minute. You want to talk about what's this guy's name? P. Diddy.
P. Diddy
Combs.
just sentenced to
Puff
50
Daddy.
months.
P. Diddy, Puff Daddy. Is that the deal?
Yeah, and this is his public service message. This is for you, P. Diddy. Stop your crying. You just got sentenced to the 50 months. People don't understand how short that sentence is. They're going to give him RDAP. That's going to get him 12 months off. He's already served 14 months. He's going to get 10 months off for good time if he doesn't blow it. He's going to get some halfway house time. At the end of the day, he's going to do under 20 months total. Stop your crying. You did the crime, do the time. This whole Rudy Tooty gangster hip hop mogul that's now saying, oh, Donald Trump, can I get a pardon? Oh, I need to go to a camp. I can only get my drug program in the camp. First of all, they got drug programs at all the facilities. You can go all the way up and get the drug program.
You know who he wants to hang out with, don't you?
Ghislaine?
Yeah, he wants to hang out with Ghislaine in Texas at a low security prison. He wants to have a good time in prison, you know?
The bottom line is, stop your crying.
Aren't they really of the same ilk, though, Lance?
Are you disgusted? The biggest charges got waived. Here's this guy kicking this girl down the hallway. He gets caught in the original raid. They found a gun with the serial numbers filed off. They found baby oil allegedly with GHB in it. We heard all these stories. I don't know what's true. But at the end of the day, this guy got the little baby tap. He got a little baby tap sentence. Stop it.
And now
There's
he's
plenty of
begging for even more leniency, right?
Yeah. Oh, I need a pardon. Oh, my drug abuse issue needs to be handled. Okay, look, man, stop it. Do your time and shut up.
But here's the deal, though. President Trump says convict has put in a request for a pardon. Lance, I don't even know how to put in a request. What does it take? An attorney? Does it take how does Pete Diddy just get a hold of the Donald?
Bottom line is they're able to escalate. I'm sure that with his amount of financial backing, right, the amount of money that P. Diddy has created through all his operations. Look, you can hire high-end attorneys. They've got access to people through senators and otherwise. They got access to people in the administration. And I'm sure that this pardon document was prepared when the case first started. As soon as he knew Donald Trump had been elected and he thought he was being even investigated, he probably already had one in the sock drawer that he's waiting to use. This happens. Look, when you have a lot of money, Sam, there are two tiers of justice. And I'm telling this to the audience. This is what happens. That pardon was ready to go, meaning that he had the submission to Donald Trump for the presidential pardon. And of course, does he have access to the press? You know he does. Does he have access to high-level officials through his defense counsel? Absolutely. These are top-tier defense people, and they have people inside the administration. This was probably dropped on Donald Trump's desk by one of those people, and who knows what was exchanged for that service. We have no idea, but it definitely goes on. It happens with every president. These are the kind of things that happen. But I'm tired of people. This is a guy that presented himself as being a tough guy. He's a gangster. He's a hip-hop mogul. And here he is crying for a pardon. Just do your time, brother. He's going to be in a camp anyway because his offense level is low enough that I guarantee he's already qualified for the camp. And since his sentence is another 10 years, a camp is already in his future. But maybe he's trying to handpick the camp because there are some camps that are better than others in the federal prison system.
Yeah, like if he can get with Ghislaine, just think what, there you go. Very strange, folks. Even that he would be asking for a pardon at this point. But then again, there's no shame for these people, right, Lance?
Well, I think there's a lot of shame in his game. I'm embarrassed for him.
Amen.
If this is the case, then get out of the hip hop music industry when you come out, because your Rudy Duty gangster image, it's not the truth. You are not the guy you portrayed in all your little tough guy songs and the rest of it. I'm tired of it. But listen, when it comes to accountability and it comes to this, I'm still waiting for some people. Tommy Robinson says it best here. I've been talking about George Soros and Alexander Soros on my show for years. These are individuals that want to destroy the country from within. They've gotten all kinds of stolen money from USAID. They're running all kinds of operations through all their different NGOs, and they have an unlimited number of them. My guy, Tommy Robinson, says George Soros is an enemy of freedom. He's the enemy of Christianity and the enemy of the West. Putin already did it. He already put him on the watch list, the international terrorist watch list. He absolutely won't let Soros into his country anywhere near it. Open society, not welcome. All his NGOs, not welcome. When is enough enough? Why do we have to have a guy from the UK tell us that George Soros is an issue? And I always want to put it in the same sentence. It's not just Georgie. It's George and Alexander. I understand his son is way worse than he is, Sam.
That's exactly right. And here's the deal. Tommy calls out Soros' involvement in the attacks on Tesla and in the paid protester movement. That's documented. But here's my deal. Why are we starting to go, no, we're going to look into George now?
Oh, yeah.
We're going to look into him, Lance.
Let me stomp something. I'm stomping my feet right now, and I'm clenching my fists, Sam. Yeah, we're going to make something happen. Listen, here's from the horse's mouth. And if anybody knows, Tommy Robbins is a friend of mine. You've seen what he's done in the UK. You saw that last assembly he did, that protest. Massive. He carries a lot of sway. He's a political, opponent to the UK government and their own invasion from illegal immigration. He's talked about the rape gangs. This guy's on target. But why does he know and our government doesn't seem to know? Let's play the clip.
Number 9.
George Soros. That man and his ideas and his foundations are responsible for the destruction of the West. And someone has to now, he has to pay for it.
Why has George Soros done so much to try to dismantle?
For his worldview, for the globalist plan, they want to destroy the West. They don't want America to be a superpower. They want to bring America down. They want China to be the superpower. And America nearly were losing all of these battles until you elected Trump.
With Antifa and with these domestic terrorist groups in the United States now, we always hear the word George Soros. What involvement does he really have in what's going on? And
he pulls the strings in all of it. And even if he dies, he's sorted out so that his corporations and his movement and all of the policies and all of the where he wants his agendas will continue. The money will just continue. Now, everything. So the groups in our country that are pro-open borders and their job is to attack anyone who exercises their free speech, to demonise them, to contact their HR companies. There's a group called Hope Not Hate in the UK, George Soros funded.
Judge Napolitano mentions Sheriff Richard Mack's Supreme Court case win over Bill Clinton. Incredible. 25 years later, and it's still being focused on as the greatest 10th Amendment decision ever rendered. You got to dig it, ladies and gentlemen. Here's the clip. Let's check this out, and then we'll talk about it.
What about this sanctuary city component of all of this? Does that come into play here, Judge?
Well, that Clayton, that is a facade. Well, let me explain it. If by sanctuary city is meant the feds can't come in, then it's a facade. If by sanctuary city is meant state or city employees are not going to help the feds, well, that is lawful. In an opinion written by Justice Scalia called Prince versus the United States, we're now in the Clinton era, where Congress enacted gun regulations and said, we're going to require the states to enforce it. Justice Scalia wrote a very famous opinion saying, well, you can't do that. You can't commandeer state assets to enforce federal law. So the state cannot actively interfere, but it can refuse to cooperate. So it depends what is meant by sanctuary city. If by sanctuary city is meant feds go home, not going to work. If by sanctuary city is meant our people are not going to help you, you're going to have to enforce federal law on your own, well, that's what the Supreme Court has authorized.
Can I ask you another question? This has been sticking in my brain for a while. We saw this in Washington, D.C., Judge, which is obviously a weird animal because it's the District of Columbia, but nonetheless, you had basically military tribunals. You had military lawyers coming into D.C. because, if I'm not mistaken, military judges as well, where they had to come in because can you really trust, in this liberal city, can you trust that they're going to get fair hearing here? And the Trump administration was doing this. They were bringing in these individuals into the city to basically put them through a military style hearing instead of a normal, like, civilian style process.
I have never heard of this. I knew that there were military lawyers there, but that was to advise the commanders on what the troops can do and what not to do. But a military tribunal would have no jurisdiction over civilians arrested by the military.
All right, there you go. You can stop that. So, Lance, just for clarity here, what we're talking about is Sheriff Richard Mack's win over Bill Clinton at the Supreme Court, basically the 10th Amendment decision, basically saying, hey, the feds can't mandate local people do anything. Therefore, hey, they can't get in the way of the feds doing their job, but they also have the choice whether they want to help or not. Very interesting that the Judge Napolitano brings this up, and he's spot on.
Listen, it's correct. At the end of the day, there's always been cooperation, though, through law enforcement. We've seen some recent issues where, of course, we saw those agents get surrounded. They were in danger. They asked for local support. They were told to ignore it. The local support was, of course, now they're backpedaling. But it's a big deal. That's what the law says, and you got to stick with what the law actually says and not what people wanted to say. But at the same time, don't we need cooperation with law enforcement all across the country? Do you really need the state law enforcement and federal law enforcement being in conflict on things where they're actually just trying to enforce the law, like illegal immigration? We're seeing that pushback.
Well,
in these blue states,
why
and
if they get in the way, they could be arrested, right?
And rightfully so. But we're seeing in the blue states, what's going on in Chicago. It's the home of the Glock and Glock switch, the full automatic Glock. Look what they're doing up there. I mean, they're not getting support. The ICE is getting attacked, and nothing but crickets from the local government or local law enforcement. It's frightening.
Yeah,
really.
Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson literally signed an executive order, ladies and gentlemen, creating what's called ICE-free zone. See, I don't think he can do that. I think that's hindering the government. I think he can be arrested for that. My question is, when are they going to do it? President Trump says he might start invoking the Insurrection Act. He said that about Portland, not Chicago. But the principle is the same. You literally have a mayor intentionally undermining the federal government. And in this case, at least when it comes to the invasion, we've given the general government delegated responsibility there to keep the American people safe, and the mayor is literally in the way. He can choose not to help if he wants to, but he signed an executive order basically saying, hey, we're not going to cooperate. We're going to create an ICE-free zone. Well, Donald Trump needs to get rid of gun-free zones across the country like he promised he would. He said he'd do that first day. I digress. The bottom line, though, is arrest the mayor. He's a criminal. Lance?
Simple. It's called obstruction of justice. At the end of the day, they're trying to enforce the supremacy clause, says that we have a right to obviously protect the country from within, from foreign invaders. These are foreign invaders because they did not come here illegally. If Brandon wants to go down this road, then face the consequences. I'm telling you right now, until some of these individuals start getting arrested and hogtied on national TV, maybe face down on the ground, nothing's going to change. Because if you didn't have to, let me put it this way, Sam, if tomorrow they said, Sam, we're going to give you a get out of free jail card. You don't have to participate in any of the laws of the United States. You can violate any law and do whatever you want with zero consequences. So that means you can go insider trade. You can go do, Sam, what's going to happen? Are you going to take advantage of that opportunity?
I am not, but I'm a rare bird. I don't seek for power, Lance. I seek to pull it down.
And you're the exception. Because at the end of the day, I think the majority of Americans would say, here's an opportunity for me to make some money. I can insider trade with no consequences, as an example. These people have no fear. Look what they did.
Me and George Washington
are
exceptions, ladies and gentlemen, and I invite you to become an exception as well. It's out of control and needs to stop. All right, last story of the hour I want to get to In a Daily Caller investigation, so that's partly owned by Tucker Carlson, right? They revealed that the Chinese American Trucker Organization, USA, then they call this thing, I don't know what's called, CATU or CATOU, CATU or whatever. It's a New York-based nonprofit organization. They have helped over 1,000 Chinese nationals, including illegal aliens, obtain U.S. commercial truckers' driver's licenses, CDLs. Okay, CADU or whatever you call this thing is registered as a 501c6. Boasts a, quote, 100% pass rate, according to its business filing. So you just roll in, you get a trucker's license as the Chinese, okay? There's this guy by the name of Zhang Hang. He's CADU's board chair. He has direct connections to Communist Chinese party lands, raising concerns about national security implications. The organization operates out of the New York office. They call it the Red Apple Employment Agency. And they basically create job placements for illegal Chinese folks. And video evidence from social media shows one individual who crossed the U.S. southern border in 2023 and obtained a CDL, a trucker's driver's license, within less than 2 months. Now, the U.S. has roughly encountered 8.5 million illegal aliens during the Biden administration, ladies and gentlemen, including over 182,000 Chinese nationals. The Trump administration has increased scrutiny of some of this, but they're not doing enough. You got Chinese communist truckers with CDLs running across America competing with the Mexican truckers, Lance.
Yeah, you get your goods trucked and you're hungry a half hour later. Here's the point. For me, I'm looking at this, right? And it reeks. If this doesn't make you question what the real operation is, thousands of truckers controlling what goods? Are they being screened? Because they know what the bill of ladings are. Are they aware of where maybe sensitive military goods are being shipped and maybe they've got an opportunity to access those goods? This is not safe. It's not something that China would allow. You wouldn't see this happening if the United States individuals went over to China. They're not going to go ahead and let us get involved in their trucking industry and somehow maybe in something that's a national security issue for China. Why should we do it here? It's no different than the farmland. It makes me question everything. And is the administration moving fast enough to protect Americans? Chinese, let me tell you something. I talked to the NFSC, the new federal state of China. Those guys know what's going on. They've had lots of warnings for the U.S. government. I am honestly very concerned about this. And at the end of the day, it's nefarious. There is no doubt that this is something that we should be questioning and our United States government should be acting on immediately.
I agree 100%. And really, to me, folks, they want to tell you that I'm a racist and that I'm against the Chinese or the Mexicans and how dare Sam, be a hater and a racist and a whatever. To me, folks, this is nothing more than a national security discussion. First off, we're talking about the communists, right? But it's a national security concern. Why? What about misuse of the trucking network in times of crisis or conflicts from China and that kind of stuff, Lance?
And listen, you're 100%. Our trucking network is crucial for the safety and security of the United States. And having foreign adversaries with connections to a foreign government that we are in opposition with, I just say no.
And really a foreign hostile government, I might add. I mean, they're not just like a foreign government like the UK or something or, whatever, or, England these people are hostile. I mean, they unleashed the pandemic on us for one thing and then covered it up. I mean, it's insanity, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just telling you right now, Trump, I appreciate your heightened scrutiny on this, but you better take action and start denying these people licenses, kick them out of the country, deport them, but they certainly shouldn't be involved in our infrastructure, moving goods and services across the country. It's insanity. All right, for Lance Miliaccio, The Big Mig, check out thebigmig.com and The Big Mig on Rumble and X and, YouTube, everywhere. Also, check out Liberty RoundTable, syndicated by Loving Liberty Networks, lovingliberty.net. God save our republic.